What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Makenchi1, Makenchi985 more inside, whichever of those names that you know me by. Welcome to a another manga review. This is for Volume 1, Chapter 2 of 20th Century Boys. And let me just get right into this. There's no point in me messing around. We'll just start. Now, this chapter was really interesting because it had a more comedic side to it. It had a very, very dark side, but also had a very comedic side. And he kind of mixed it and mingled it in a lot. So the general overview of it is that Carry On is getting married, of course, which we find out in the last chapter. And what's his name? Kenji and Maruo and his other guy with the friend with the glasses have attended his wedding ceremony. His engagement was a wedding ceremony, and you know, the first time they see him step out with the wife, I mean, they're both not lookers. You know, they refer to him as Carry On, which is frog or froggy or something, I think. And the moment we see they see Carry On, the way Naoki Urasawa draws it is you just see a frog next to a woman who's wearing the kimono and the traditional wedding dress and that kind of thing. And you know, kids will never forget that. You know, the way someone's mind works when they're nostalgic is very different. You will never ever see that person as anything else other than what you remember them as. Now, the whole Carry On frog imagery reinforces my theory from the first one that Naoki Urasawa was trying to present Kenji's childhood as a sort of Alice in Wonderland-esque fantasy when you see it through the eyes of a child. And Carry On as a frog reminded me of Alice in Wonderland because if I know my Alice in Wonderland, there was a character called Frog Footman or Frog Messenger or something who was like a lackey for the queen or that kind of thing. So that image just reinforced that for me, that they were trying to present this idyllic childhood, which was like an Alice in Wonderland-esque fantasy. That's a brief overview. They were sitting there. Kenji was trying to think of a speech to write for Carry On, and then they flash back to a childhood game they used to play where Carry On was the evil, Frog Empire leader, and he was the big leader. As kids play cowboys and Indians, they were going around shooting each other, and Carry On, was the big bad leader, that kind of thing. I'm skimming it now because I want to get into detail afterwards. But before that, what happens is we open on a shot in that chapter of the murdered body of a 24-year-old guy, engineering graduate, and his body is found with the blood drained out fully. I'm not entirely sure. I couldn't tell if he had puncture wounds in his body and it was drained out, but he's found next to some weird contraptions, which the police believe that he had built. And he was a graduate from a school where someone called Mr. Shikishima was teaching. So he seems to be a potential interested part. The police are interested in him. This is also the first time we're introduced to a virus, the talk of a virus that these detectives talk about when they find the body. And there seems to be some, a kind of something going around, either news about a virus or, murmurings of a virus abroad or wherever. We don't know yet, but they mentioned a virus. So I think that's going to play a huge important part. And it's kind of weird because right now we've got that Zika virus going around, which can be sexually transmitted. In our real world right now, there's a new virus scare and that kind of thing. So obviously the virus scare can spread everywhere. So we don't know the origin of the virus or anything, but the detectives assume it's that virus. Basically, then it transitions later on. Kenji is talking about that symbol he saw on the wall. He remembers it, and he's asking his friends, who are from his childhood, the people he formed that symbol with. If you recognize the symbol, if you recognize the symbol, if you've seen it anywhere, that kind of thing. And they're uninterested, Some people think really into it when you remember something from your childhood. Some people just, brush it off. So they don't know the significance of it yet. What I also love about the scenes in the panels in Carry On's wedding is when Kenji draws his symbol from his childhood, the eye and the hand. When he draws it and shows it to his friends, Naoki Urasawa makes a conscious decision not to show what he's drawn. It's either always out of shot, out of frame, or when the friends are looking at it, it's always with the paper, turned to us. So I think Naoki Urasawa didn't want to overpower that scene with that symbol, because that symbol has now been appropriated by the friend, and I think it means something more sinister, something more now that the friends appropriated it. So I love the conscious decision not to overpower that scene with that symbol and let that scene sink in with just a bunch of friends reminiscing about their old friend who's now getting married. Then it transitions into the friend, the enigmatic guy. Now, and he's doing some magic. You know how these pastors, do stuff, to people to make them have an experience and that kind of thing. He's doing all that kind of stuff. And then it transitions back to, it's vignettes. It's actually a bunch of vignettes that are happening. It was very easy to follow. Then it ends with Kenji singing karaoke at Kenyon's wedding. Now, before I get into this, the interesting things I want to know is in this, when Kenyon and his friends Mario and everyone else are talking about their past, obviously I related really well to that wedding scene where they're sitting on the table as being someone who's been to a few weddings the last couple of years, very recently, and you're seeing some of our friends get married and that kind of thing. It's so natural again. It seems as though it speaks to me that when they're sitting around, at their table with their friends, you've got the one guy who loves to eat. Mario loves to eat, so he doesn't want the banquet to go to waste. We're always commenting on what the quality of the food is at the weddings, which is what the kind of discussions I've had with friends and other friends about the quality of the food at the wedding. There's some people who are trying to write a speech, like a best man speech, a friend speech, to talk about the guy. That's also happened at the wedding I went to in recent memory. And there's also always talk about jokes about, stuff in the past and that kind of thing. And also when you go to a wedding, it makes you think about your own wedding, if you're not married, or the potential of getting married. And I love the flashback to Grandma Okiko, who was banging on about breasts. Do you want this woman? You should get married to this woman. You should get married to this woman. She's got big breasts. She's got big breasts. The way they drew her, the Granny Okiko, was so endearing. That was a point of note for me. When they drew her, they zoomed in on her face. It was so uncanny. The way they drew, Naoki Urasawa usually draws people, this was kind of like one above. They drew her very, very exaggerated, very funny, but she was old and endearing. I felt for her, man. I instantly saw that character design, that face. And she looked like a woman that was old, but then what was coming out of her mouth was really quite forward. Would you want this woman to get married to Kenji? Do you want to get married to this woman, Kenji? And Kenji was remembering back to these, moments where, he was thinking about when the prospect of marriage had come up, and, he's not married. And unfortunately, he's still looking after Kana, his sister's baby, and he wasn't thinking about marriage at the time. He goes, I'm going to look after Kana, man, forget marriage and all this stuff. I'm going to look after my sister's baby till she comes back. And there's little moments between Maruo and Kana. Kana's cheeks are so thick. The way Naoki Urasawa draws the cheeks is just fucking amazing. Like, there's an angle that you can get a baby at, and you just draw the cheeks round. The pictures are going up now. It's so endearing, and the artwork is so, like, there's something about her artwork that you just instantly have an affection for. Now, interesting thing is, in one of the flashbacks that Kenji has to while he's at the thinking on Kenyon, and Kenyon reminiscing about Kenyon in their past, their best friend, getting married now, and that kind of thing. And to be honest, the wife, the woman he's getting married to, is no looker as far as the manga goes. She's no looker, but they're remembering him and as the big tyrannical frog, frog empire leader, because that's where he got his nickname from, because he loved to always take that role. Now, funny enough, they all take the piss out of him now. Kenyon this, Kenyon that. But back in the day, it seems as though Kenyon was very assertive, very assertive over them and that kind of thing. So Kenyon manages to get a hit in onto in the childhood sections, a hit in on Kenji, and then Kenji gets hit. He goes, no, you have to lie down in bed. You have to play dead. You have to play dead. And he goes 10 times. He tells Kenji to lay down. He goes, say you're dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. 10 times. Now that part of it is interesting, because when they transition into the scene with the friend in front of one of his audience, one of his flock, the friend, the enigmatic figure, he's also saying, think you're dead 10 times. Say I am dead, I am dead, I am dead, I am dead 10 times. Now these are things that the friend knows, that only those guys could know. Only Kenji could know, Maru could know, Kenyon could know. Only the childhood friends could know. And he's saying things, and he's repeating back things, and he's appropriating these things that only those guys could know if they formed the pact together. And these are the kind of games they played before. So this guy has appropriated, some of their childhood antics, not childhood antics, but childhood words and certain things. And it makes you wonder, who is this enigmatic figure? They also talked about Monchan, and that he was out of the country. They also brought Monchan again. oh, it's a shame Monchan couldn't be here because he's out of the country. At that thing. They made a passing reference to that during the wedding scene. But all in all, it was a very brief chapter, very mix of comedy and darkness. We don't know how these things are linked, but it follows the kind of follows the pattern of the last chapter about vignettes switching between them and just kind of sharing an equal billing, an equal amount of time between each one. So I hope you enjoyed that. My general impressions are, I don't really have any theories right now. I do believe Monchan's going to be a huge part of it. I believe he's going to be in there because they did show him at the double page spread with his face and everything. And I don't know how the girl who will only be referred to as the girl, but this chapter was really weird because the minute I read it, I thought, you know what? There's a huge mixture of uncanny looking, exaggerated faces, comedic elements. And I also love the end of this chapter where Kenji is reminiscing and thinking, you know what, in our childhood, I wanted to save the world from evil. And he's singing karaoke even though he doesn't like doing it at weddings. And that reminded me of things that we do sometimes for our friends that we don't like doing. I hate dancing, but I had to get dragged out to dance. So he's doing karaoke, but he also thinks to himself, there's an inner monologue that happens right at the end. He goes, I'm fine. I'm happy just as I am. And that also reinforces my theory that he probably had lots of hopes and dreams, but he's resigned to his fate, what he is, the convenience store, how everything is right now. He's happy not saving the world, that kind of thing. Those dreams are gone, so what a brilliant way to end that chapter. And I love those elements, and it's a really brief chapter, and not more really I could say, but it was endearing. And again, we were introduced to Grandma Okiku from the funeral home, I believe. And that weird moment where she's saying, she's going home with breast, she's going home with breast, marry her, I found the perfect moment for you. These are things that, you think about, you remember back to. It makes you wonder when you're at someone's wedding, when people are having kids and getting pregnant and getting married. You think about these things. There's something so human and something you connect to in these people. I felt I could connect to the first one because all this, they're talking about the UN and the Cold War and that kind of thing, politics. But they're mixing politics with goofiness. They're mixing politics with nostalgia and childhood. These things come together. This is the world we live in, people. So I hope you enjoyed my chapter review for that. And be sure to look forward to the next one. Thank you for watching.